Hey there, welcome to Once Upon a Crime's YouTube channel. If you're new to the channel, I hope you'll subscribe. So today we have a video that's a little bit different than what we've had before. And I promised this on episode 167, Last Dance, the Adam Sapikowski case. And I told you at the end of that podcast that I found something a little odd, a little strange and weird while I was doing research for that episode. What I found was that the Sapikowski family, and as you know, if you remember episode 167, which you should definitely listen to before you listen to this because it'll make a little bit more sense why I decided to share this. Adam Sapikowski was convicted of murdering both of his parents the weekend before his prom. And they'll probably jog your memory a little bit. There were two children in the Sabakowski family. There was Adam and there was his older sister, Lauren. What I mentioned at the end of the episode was that there seemed to be almost no motivation for this terrible murder that occurred, that it seemed that this murder came out of the blue. The Sabakowskis seemed like a normal family. They didn't seem to have any major issues going on that would cause such a horrible crime to occur. But of course, like I said, we don't know what was going on behind closed doors. What we do know is that people outside of the family thought they were just a normal, happy, well adjusted family. So much so that a friend of theirs, I believe this person was somebody who knew the family, used the family as a model to author a children's book. So when I found that out, you know that I had to go find this book because it's such an odd detail. The book is not that easy to find, but I was able to find a copy. So that's what I'm going to do today on this video is I'm going to share that with you. And you're going to be able to follow along as I read you the story of The Guest Who Threw Tomatoes by Cal Fussman. Let me tell you who Cal Fussman is. Cal Fussman was a columnist for Esquire magazine. So that's pretty good credentials. And he decided to try his hand at writing a children's book. So he used the Sapikowski family as his inspiration for this story and wrote a book. And so I'm going to read that to you now, with some commentary, of course. So, The Guest Who Threw Tomatoes. The Sapikowskis didn't quite know what to expect when they went to the airport to pick up their guest. They had never met anyone from Spain. Remember, Mrs. Sapikowski said to Lauren and Adam, we want our guests to feel at home. In Spain, they have different customs. This is a great opportunity to learn about Pepe's culture, and I'm sure it will be fun showing him ours. Lauren and Adam were very excited about Pepe's arrival. What did people from Spain look like? Lauren wondered. What did they eat? What games did they like to play? Adam knew it was special to have a Spanish guest because his parents allowed him to stay up until 10 o'clock to pick up Pepe at the airport. As they waited, Mr. Sapikowski pulled out a little Spanish dictionary and practiced saying the word hola. That means hello in Spanish. Okay, I know this book is for children, but everybody knows how to say hola. Mr. Sapikowski knew that Pepe had learned to speak English in school, but he thought Pepe might feel more at home if he greeted him in Spanish. Just then, a loudspeaker announced that the flight from Spain had landed. Soon a man wearing a funny black hat and a red cape appeared. I am Pepe from Spain, he said with a great bow. Okay, come on. This guy is coming from Spain and he's wearing a bullfighter's outfit. Who wrote this book? Okay, I'm sorry. When I first read this, I was like, that is like so stereotypical. Like, I just wouldn't even read this to my child. Anyway, nobody had ever bowed to Mrs. Sapikowski before. She was very impressed to have such a polite guest. Lauren and Adam bowed back. Hola, Mr. Sapikowski said. Hola, Pepe replied. You are longer than a day without bread. Now, Mr. Sapikowski was a very tall man, but he had never heard anyone say that about him before. It is an old Spanish expression, Pepe explained. Mr. Sapikowski smiled at the compliment. I'm sure it sounds much better in Spanish. They picked up Pepe's luggage and began to drive home. Are you hungry, Mrs. Sapakowski? Asked Pepe. Why, of course, Pepe said. It is 10 o'clock. That is the normal time to eat dinner, is it not? Dinner at 10 o'clock at night, Adam exclaimed. I'd be sleeping when I ate supper there if I lived in Spain. We usually eat dinner at 6:30, said Mr. Sapakowski. But because this is such a special occasion, we'll all have another dinner. Yay! Lauren and Adam cheered. Please allow me to cook my famous tortillas, Pepe said. I insist. Well, said Mrs. Sapakowski, if you insist. When they got home, Pepe began to crack eggs. He chopped up potatoes and peppers. Then he started to fry the tortillas. Soon a wonderful aroma filled the house. I don't believe you fry tortillas. At least I've never fried tortillas, but okay. This is delicious, Mr. Sapakowski said after his first bite. Feel free to cook any time you like, Mrs. Sapakowski said. Adam couldn't believe it. It was almost midnight and his parents were letting him stay up. This is like a party, he exclaimed. Kind of a weird irony, wouldn't you say? We in Spain are very famous for our parties, Pepe said. They are called fiestas. Let me tell you all about them. Mrs. Sapakowski cleared her throat. That would be wonderful, Pepe, she said, but the children have school tomorrow. It's time for them to go to bed. Oh, no, groaned Lauren and Adam. Don't worry, Mrs. Sapakowski said. Pepe will be here for 3 whole days. He'll tell you all about the Spanish fiestas after school tomorrow. Okay, you fly from Spain all the way to the United States to stay 3 days? That just doesn't seem quite worth it. Not even worth the jet lag. The next morning, while the children were at school, Mrs. Sapakowski took Pepe to the supermarket. He bought rice and chicken and fish, but mostly he bought tomatoes. He bought so many tomatoes, they nearly spilled out the back of the Sapakowski's minivan. Mrs. Sapakowski thought this was a bit odd, but she kept silent, remembering how good Pepe's tortillas tasted. That afternoon, Adam and Lauren ran home from school. They couldn't wait to hear about the fiestas. Pepe took off his cape and hat. He's still wearing his cape and hat. These are what a bullfighter wears, he said. But I must change to teach you about La Fiesta de San Fermin. Do you have some pencils? Adam and Lauren ran for the pencils. Pepe carefully placed one behind each of his ears so that they were like the horns of a bull. Then he tied a green band around his head to keep the horns in place. La Fiesta de San Fermin is what people call the running of the bulls, Pepe said. People line up behind a fence in a town called Pamplona. On the other side of the fence are many bulls. The bulls do not like to be trapped. It makes them very angry. When the fence is open, the bulls come running out, and the people must run through the streets to escape. The idea is not to get stuck by the horns of the bulls coming behind you, which would seem pretty obvious. Lauren and Adam looked at each other, their eyes wide with fright. It's a lot of fun, said Pepe. Now let's play. I don't think it's a lot of fun for the bulls, but okay. Pepe got down on his hands and knees behind the sofa and began to snort. Lauren and Adam could see the pencil sticking up over the cushions like a bull's horns. All of a sudden, Pepe came charging. Yikes! Adam screamed. Run for your life! Lauren did just that. Another irony. Adam ran out of the playroom with Pepe in hot pursuit. The pencil horns were an inch away as he raced into the kitchen. Adam jumped on top of the table to escape. He skidded right into the fruit bowl, which tumbled off the table and sent pears, apples, and bananas scattering just ahead of Pepe the bull, who stepped on a banana and sent the fruit flying out of the peel. The banana smashed into the TV screen like a missile. Meanwhile, Lauren skidded on the peel and flipped onto the couch. Yikes! Adam cried, pushing dining room chairs over in front of Pepe the bull. This is starting to creep me out because remember the chair detail in the episode that the chair he had pushed in front of the door? Ugh. Lauren squealed with delight. What a fun game this was. She jumped off the couch and scooted into the laundry room. Pepe was about to get her when his head smashed into the hamper. Okay, this guy's just going a little too far. This is just too much. Adam and Lauren ran for the bedroom. Pepe snorted after them. Mattresses flipped, pillow feathers flew, the toy chest tumbled, and stuffed animals scattered. Finally, Adam, Lauren, and the bull collapsed in the living room. La Fiesta de San Fermin is so much fun, Lauren said, trying to catch her breath. Yeah, Adam said, rubbing his behind. I am so happy you enjoyed it, Pepe said. Tomorrow I will teach you about La Tomatina. But now it is time for my siesta. Is a siesta like a fiesta? Lauren asked. No, a siesta is a nap in the afternoon, Pepe explained. Everyone takes a nap in the afternoon in Spain. Don't you? Pepe just couldn't believe that Lauren and Adam didn't take a siesta every day. He waved goodbye and went to his room for a nap. Just then, Mrs. Sapakowski came in. She had been outside tending to her prized petunias. What happened? She cried, seeing all the laundry scattered about, the pillow feathers floating in the air, and the chairs upside down as if a hurricane had blown through the house. Lauren and Adam looked at each other. Lauren waited for Adam to explain. Adam waited for Lauren to explain. But neither one of them could say it first, so nobody said anything at all. We can't have this house looking like this in front of our guest, Mrs. Sapolkowski said. He's so polite. Quick, clean up this instant. The next morning, Pepe asked Mrs. Sapolkowski to take him to town to buy some goggles. Mrs. Sapolkowski thought that was a fine idea. She had overheard Adam and Lauren telling Pepe about the big pool at the YMCA. Perhaps they would all go swimming. Mrs. Sapolkowski took Pepe into town. I must stop at the cleaners, she said as she left Pepe at the sporting goods shop. I'll be right back. When she returned, Pepe was holding a huge sack. Mrs. Sapolkowski wondered why he needed such a big bag for a tiny pair of goggles. But she didn't want her guests to think American women were nosy, so she didn't ask. That afternoon, Lauren and Adam ran home from school to find out about La Tomatina. Pepe was waiting outside with a huge sack next to many boxes of tomatoes. He did not have his red cape on or even his funny hat. He was wearing the old clothes Mr. Sapolkowski used to paint the house. In order for me to teach you about La Tomatina, Pepe said, we will need the help of your friends. Get as many as you can. So Lauren and Adam went around the neighborhood and brought back Dylan and Douglas and Michelle and Kenya and Katie and Emily and Olivia and Paul and Sarah and Yoon and Elliot and Carol Ann and Kiara. I'm thinking these are probably the real kids that lived in that neighborhood. All the kids gathered around Pepe. La Tomatina is a fiesta that takes place in a town called Buñol every August, Pepe told them. Buñol, they repeated. Nobody is really sure how it started, Pepe continued. It said that two friends got into an argument at a fruit stand. One picked up a tomato and threw it at the other. The other started to throw tomatoes back. Now 50,000 people come to Buñol every August. They bring goggles to protect their eyes. Giant trucks drop tomatoes on the streets, and the people throw them at each other for a whole hour. Cool, said Douglas. Pepe turned over the bag and let a bunch of goggles spill out. The kids strapped them on. Then Pepe picked up a tomato and squished it over Adam's head. Red pulp oozed down Adam's brow to the tip of his nose. Ew! The boys and girls screamed. Adam got really mad. Yeah. He picked up a tomato and threw it at Pepe. But Pepe ducked and the tomato hit Douglas in the chest. Douglas grabbed a tomato and threw it at Adam, but he missed and it hit Michelle. That made her really mad, and so she grabbed 3 tomatoes and threw them. But it's hard to aim 3 tomatoes, and so none hit Adam. They hit Kiara and Katie and Olivia instead. Olivia ran toward the box of tomatoes, but slipped on the seeds and everyone laughed. She clenched her teeth, got up, and fired a tomato at Lauren's behind. Bullseye! Before you knew it, everybody was throwing tomatoes at everybody else. Elliot even squished a tomato and dropped it down Paul's pants. Elliot sounds like a bad seed. Mrs. Sapolkowski was tending to her prized petunias when she heard the commotion. Wasn't she doing that yesterday? She's really into those petunias. She lifted her head to see what was going on. A tomato whizzed by her ear. She quickly ducked under her petunias. Douglas's dad heard the noise. He came striding across the street and got hit right in the forehead. But he didn't get mad. He smiled and started throwing tomatoes too. Soon all the neighbors were running over and throwing tomatoes until there were no more left and everybody was swimming in tomato soup. Just then Mr. Sapolkowski came home from work. What in the tarnation is going on here? He asked, looking at the river of red juice dripping down the side of his house. Mrs. Sapolkowski lifted her head. Is the coast clear? She asked. Oh, we just had a great tomato fight, said Douglas's dad. It's called La Tomatina, Adam explained. We also have a grape throwing festival in Spain, said Pepe, but I believe it's much more fun with tomatoes. Douglas smiled and said, It's so cool. Tomorrow, Pepe announced to everyone, I invite you all here to learn about La Fiesta de Santo Antonio. Is every fiesta like a huge mess? Are people getting stuck by bull's horns? Very odd. I hope they don't grow any watermelons in Spain, said Mrs. Sapakowski. Mr. Sapakowski looked at the juicy mess dribbling down the side of his house and cleared his throat. Pepe, I'm not so sure about this, he said. We've kind of got the idea about food fights in Spain. But La Fiesta de San Antonio is not a food fight, Pepe said. It's a big Spanish dinner. You will enjoy it very much, I promise. Mr. Sapakowski remembered how tasty Pepe's tortillas were. Okay, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Please, Pepe said, invite everybody in the neighborhood. Cool, said Douglas's dad. Later, as Mr. Sapakowski hosed the gooey mess off his house, he asked his wife, do you think everybody in Spain is as crazy as Pepe? I was kind of wondering the same thing. I don't think so. I don't know, Mrs. Sapakowski said, but the neighbors sure seem to love him. Well, their houses aren't getting trashed. There's only one more day before Pepe goes home. One thing is for sure. Whatever he does tomorrow can't be messier than what he did today. The next morning, Pepe borrowed the Sapakowski's car to get the things needed for the party. Now, do you really think he has an American driver's license? No. He brought back a big pot and filled it with rice and chicken and sausage and fish. Sounds like paella to me. That sounds really good right now. I'm kind of hungry. Then he built a fire and began to cook. Built a fire? The aroma wafted over the neighborhood. Lauren and Adam and their friends carried tables and chairs over from the neighbors' houses. Soon, there was hardly room to move inside the Sapakowski's house. But Mrs. Sapakowski couldn't complain because the neighbors were so excited. At 4 o'clock, they filled every seat. This is a famous Spanish dish, Pepe said. It's called paella. Got that one right. Everybody shouted, paella, and then began to eat. This is delicious, the neighbors nodded to each other. We serve it in a village called Pavias every January on La Fiesta de Santo Antonio, Pepe said. The mayor of Pavias invites everybody in town to his home for the dinner. The neighbors all smiled at Mr. Sapakowski. That made Mr. Sapakowski very proud. He felt like he was the mayor of Estes Hills, which is, I think I said that in the episode, where their house was located. Just then there was a scream. It came from Michelle at a table next to the laundry room. Something furry and wet had brushed her leg under the table. Now all the boys and girls were screaming. Something wet and gooey and furry was going crazy under the table. Mr. Sapakowski couldn't believe his eyes. Mrs. Sapakowski almost fainted. It was a real live pig running around under the table. Everyone jumped on top of the tables. Rice and chicken got knocked over. Soda spilled. Sausages scattered. The frightened pig ran into the laundry room and then ran out in a panic with Adam's freshly cleaned underwear on his head. Oh, how the boys and girls laughed at the pig in Adam's underwear. Adam's going to get pissed. You better be careful. Douglas tried to get the pig in a bear hug, but it slipped right through his arms. The pig had been smeared all over with grease. Dylan dove for the pig, but it spurted away, flew through the air with the underwear on its head, and knocked Douglas's mom into the big pot of paella. Geez, it could have knocked her into the fire. This is getting really dangerous. Finally, after every table and chair had been knocked over and the carpet was covered with chunks of chicken and fish and everybody had stopped laughing because it had started to hurt their bellies, Pepe put on gloves and picked up the pig. I thought this wasn't going to be a food fight. The running of the pig is the best part of La Fiesta de Santo Antonio, Pepe said, removing the underwear and patting the pig on its head. Now, where did he get a pig? Cool, said Douglas and his mom and dad all together. These people are like a one-note family. The next day, everyone in the neighborhood went to the airport to wish Pepe a good trip back to Spain. I am sorry I did not have time to teach you a dance called flamenco, Pepe told them. Sorry, it just seems like so many stereotypes here. But you are welcome to come to my home and learn. Adios, Lauren and Adam said. They had learned to say goodbye in Spanish. Gracias, Pepe said, meaning thanks. Then he twirled in his cape and boarded the plane. The Sapakowskis drove home. Mrs. Sapakowski was looking forward to a few days of peace and rest, but she'd first have to clean up that house. It's going to take like a week. But it felt too quiet. Do you think everyone in Spain is as crazy as Pepe? She asked, for the second time. I don't know, Mr. Sapakowski said. I guess we'd have to go to Spain to find out. Can we, Mom? Lauren asked. Pepe invited us, Adam said. Can we go, please? The Sapakowskis decided to visit Pepe during summer vacation. They did not know if everyone in Spain was as crazy as Pepe, But as they boarded the plane, they were all wearing red capes and funny black hats just in case. The worst type of cultural appropriation, in my opinion. Check out the boarding agent. She also finds it inappropriate. The end. So that was The Guest Who Threw Tomatoes, starring the Sapikowski family. A very odd, I don't think I've found a more odd detail in a case that I've researched so far. So I had to get that and I had to share it with you. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for coming to the YouTube channel. I hope you'll subscribe. We'll have some surprises coming out on the channel now and again. You can also listen to every episode as it releases also on our YouTube channel. Thanks so much.